Welcome to the revolution. SHASN Azadi is a semi-cooperative board game in which you play as revolutionaries, fighting against tyrannical imperial powers. Work with your fellow revolutionaries to gain Azadi, your birthright. But freedom is not guaranteed. The oppressors will not go down easy. If you succeed, only one of you will be elected leader of your new nation. What will freedom cost?
SHASN Azadi is a semi-cooperative game for 2 to 5 players. I will be covering the competitive parts of the game, while my co-designer, Abhishek Lamba, will be covering the cooperative parts of the game. Let's learn how to play.
SHASN Azadi has two objectives. Your first objective is to gain Azadi, but the clock is ticking. If you do not manage to gain Azadi in time, the Imperials continue their reign of terror and you all lose.
And if you succeed, only one of you becomes the leader of your now free nation. When the gloves are off, the competition now begins.
The game ends when all possible majorities in all zones have been formed. If you have the highest number of majority voters when the game ends, then you win.
In summary, either everyone loses or one person wins.
Will you manage to strike the right balance between cooperation and competition? To set up the game, each player selects a color and takes a player mat and voter pegs corresponding to that color, along with a player aid and a Maidaan. Place the monument tracker in the play area within reach of all players. Place the Imperial Arms mat in the play area. Place the Imperial attack cards on the Imperial Arms mat. There are 4 sets of attack cards, each corresponding to a different ideologue on the Imperial Arms mat. Based on its strength, each attack card is assigned a number, with 1 being the weakest. Place each set of attack cards face up in their respective columns from 1 to 3, with 1 on top, 2 beneath that, and so on. Take out the containers storing the resources: funds, clout, media, trust, and the special resources, infamy and legacy, and keep them in the play area. All players vote to determine player 1. Players cannot vote for themselves. In case of a tie, the last player to go to a protest is player 1. Players take turns clockwise. Player 1 takes any 1 resource of their choice, player 2 takes any 2 resources, and so on. Players must keep their resources on their player mats. Players cannot take special resources, that is, infamy or legacy during setup. Next, place the HQ mat in the play area. Shuffle and place the voter cards on the HQ mat. Draw the top 3 voter cards and place them face up. Player 1 now lays down the capital, the 8-15 zone, in the play area. In clockwise turn order, every player must place a 7-13 zone each. The zone placed right after the capital must be adjacent to it. All zones placed after this must be adjacent to at least 2 other zones. Choose your difficulty level. This determines how many Azadi points you must earn to gain Azadi and how many ideology cards you have to do so. Refer to table 1 in the rulebook to select the scope of your challenge. Place the rebel flag on the Azadi tracker on the HQ mat. For 2 players, place the rebel flag on 2, for 3 players on 3, and so on. Place the fort to mark the number of points you require to gain Azadi based on your chosen difficulty level. If the game still feels too easy or too hard, we recommend changing the number of Azadi points you need to gain Azadi. Shuffle the ideology cards and tyranny cards belonging to your chosen campaign. Place the ideology cards in the ideology card box provided. The fuse represents the march of history. Place it inside the ideology cards box as per your chosen difficulty level. This marks how many turns you have to gain Azadi. For example, if you're playing a 4-player game on hard, place the fuse after the first 24 ideology cards. The first player begins their turn by placing the crown on any column of the Imperial Arms mat and resolving its actions. If you've played SHASN before, jump to this timestamp. If you haven't, keep watching.
Azadi is an expansion built on SHASN. Here we will cover all the rules required to play SHASN. Your turn begins with the player before you reading out an ideology card. They will read the question out and both the answers. Each answer belongs to a certain ideologue. They will not tell you what answer belongs to what ideologue or what resources you get. After you answer the question, you take the card and tuck it under your player mat. You also take the resources signified on the ideology card. As you answer ideology questions, you will see a pattern starting to build. The cards belong to the ideologues, and in SHASN there are 4 ideologues: the capitalist, the Supremo, the Showstopper, and the Idealist. As you answer ideology questions, you will build your political platform. You will level up in the 4 different ideologies and unlock more powers. You unlock powers at level 2, level 3, and level 5. You can use all the powers that you've unlocked in the same turn. For every 2 cards you have of a particular ideologue, you receive 1 resource of that type, which means at 4 cards you receive 2 resources. As the game goes on, the number of resources you receive at start of your turn increases. At any point in the game, there will be 3 voter cards open for you to influence. Each card has a number of resources required to influence the card. Pay the resources, discard the card, and place the voters on the board. Voters from the same voter card have to go in the same zone. They cannot be split up. When you place voters, place them blank side up. They will only flip over when you form a majority. As you can see, each zone has 2 numbers. The larger number is the total number of voters that can be placed in that zone. The smaller number is the number required to form a majority. When you do meet that requirement, flip over that many number of voters to show the world that you have formed a majority. For example, this 917 zone has a total number of 17 voters that can be cast. Any player who has 9 voters will have a majority and will flip 9 voters over with the voter symbol side up. As a politician, the biggest tool in your arsenal to cut your enemies to size is gerrymandering. How does gerrymandering work? If you have more voters than anyone else in a zone, you gain gerrymandering rights in that zone, which means you can now influence that zone and all the adjoining zones. For example, if you have more voters than anyone else in this zone, you can influence the 3 neighboring zones, which means you can move 1 voter from an adjacent zone to another adjacent zone, or in and out of the zone you have gerrymandering rights in. If you're tied with another player for the same number of votes in that zone, none of you have gerrymandering rights. Gerrymandering is underrated. When you can gerrymander, gerrymander. So in recap, you earn resources by answering ideology cards. You spend these resources on influencing voter cards and place the voters on the board to form majorities. You also collect the cards that you have answered to unlock ideology powers that will strengthen your game. You end your turn by asking an ideology card question to the next player.
If you have played SHASN before, please take into account the following rule changes before playing Azadi. Standard SHASN rules apply for ideologues, ideology cards, resources, influencing voters, forming majorities, and gerrymandering. Now for the changes. First, they are the Imperial voters, as marked by these white voter pegs. These voters may come onto your board, form majorities, and wreak havoc on your revolution. So you better keep an eye out on them. Next, we've completely changed how eviction works. Now, when you evict a voter, that voter goes back to that player's player mat. They may place these voters back onto the map in their turn after they answer an ideology card. Azadi does not have headlines and conspiracies. Instead, it has Tyranny Cards, Imperial Orders, and Resistance cards. They are explained further along the video. The revolution demands your sacrifice. Now, free of cost, in your turn, you may discard or convert as many of your own voters as you want. Doing so might give you access to new powers and push you closer towards Azadi. But how do you gain Azadi? You and your fellow revolutionaries must work together to gain Azadi points. To win Azadi, you have to gain a specified number of Azadi points as marked by the Imperial Fort on the Azadi tracker. The number of Azadi points you currently have is marked by the rebel flag on the Azadi tracker. Gain enough Azadi points to plant your rebel flag on the Imperial Fort and gain Azadi. There are 4 ways to gain Azadi points and push your rebel flag closer to the Imperial Fort. Gain 1 point every time you form a rebel majority, every time you break an Imperial majority, every time you resolve a Tyranny card, and every time you overturn an Imperial order. But it won't be easy. You might lose Azadi points as well. Lose 1 point every time a rebel majority breaks, and every time the Imperials form a majority. However, you have limited turns to gain Azadi. If you do not gain Azadi by the time you reach the fuse card in the ideology card box, then you all lose and the game immediately ends. The Imperials won't make it easy to gain Azadi. The Imperial Arms Mat is the command center of the Imperials from where they launch devastating attacks upon you and your revolution. At the start of your turn, every turn, move the Imperial crown 1 space forward and resolve the actions of the Imperial Arms Mat. Using the Imperial Arms Mat, the Imperials take 2 actions every turn. The first thing they do is they invite you to parley, to negotiate with them. When you parley with the Imperials, you may choose to add up to 1 Imperial voter to any or all open zones. For example, you may choose to add 1 Imperial voter to 4 zones and gain 4 resources. These are resources of your choice, and you can use them to fuel the revolution or further your own ambitions. Parleying with the Imperials is optional, but resolving the attack cards is not. After parleying, the player who moved the crown has to resolve the Imperial attack card the crown landed under. Each Imperial attack card corresponds to one of the 4 ideologues and targets them in particular. Each attack card affects all those who are a level 2 of that ideologue, whether or not they move the Imperial crown or not. Refer to the player aid to understand what each Imperial attack card does. As you and your fellow rebels grow stronger, so do the Imperials. They are an automated, adaptive adversary. Whenever a player becomes a level 3 or level 5 of an ideologue, discard the top attack card corresponding to that ideologue on the Imperial Arms Mat to reveal an even more dangerous attack. Once you resolve the Imperial Arms Mat, answer the ideology card and proceed with your turn. When your turn is complete, the next player moves the Imperial crown 1 space forward and resolves the Imperial Arms Mat actions again. The Imperial Arms remains active until you gain Azadi. In SHASN Azadi, players can capture zones together by forming a coalition majority. Forming a majority, coalition or otherwise will give you an Azadi point and inch you closer towards Azadi. 2 players can form a coalition in a zone if the total of their combined voters meets the majority requirement of that zone. To form a coalition in a zone, the 2 players must exchange 1 ideology card with each other. The exchanged card must belong to whichever ideologue they hold the most cards of. This represents the ideological cost of compromise. When forming a coalition, the players can split the majority voters in any ratio. It's open to negotiation. A player can withdraw from a coalition at any moment during their turn. To do so, they only have to declare it, and the moment they do, all the majority voters are flipped blank side up. Keep in mind though, unless specified otherwise, the moment you gain Azadi, all coalitions are broken and it's every player for themselves. Tyranny cards are the battleground where you get to combat the Imperial oppression, unlock new zones, and inch closer towards Azadi. Each Tyranny card is a unique event from history where you get to take a stand and dictate the future of your revolution. Trigger a Tyranny card by placing a voter in a volatile area. With each Tyranny card, the Imperials unleash a new Imperial Order intended to stifle your revolution. At the same time, resolving a Tyranny card will bring your revolution closer to Azadi and earn you an Azadi point, give you legacy, unlock a new zone, and unlock a resistance card. The player whose voter enters a volatile area earns a legacy for taking the fight to the Imperials and must resolve the following actions. Read the title and narrative out loud. For example, this is the Bastar intervention. It reads, "Once again, the British have encroached upon Adivasi lands. It's time to show them who this land really belongs to." Place the specified Imperial Order in a zone without an Imperial Order or resistance card. This is a new law that the Imperials are using to shackle your revolution and is explained later in the video. If there is no zone with an empty space, place the Imperial Order over any resistance card. Remember, you cannot trigger more than 1 Tyranny card at a time. Open up the Tyranny card and place it under the Imperial Arms Mat. Place 6 legacy tokens each on the spaces provided on the Imperial Arms Mat. Each Tyranny card presents players with 2 different ways to respond to the Imperials. Open up the Tyranny card to see your 2 choices. Completing all the actions on one side of the Tyranny card will resolve it and earn you an Azadi point. Read the narratives of the 2 choices and the tasks you have to do to complete them. These are powers you can use to help resolve the Tyranny card. These powers are only active while the Tyranny card is active, and if you want, you can use both these powers in your turn. This is how many times you have to complete each task in order to resolve the Tyranny card. For example, in the Bastar intervention, you have to evict an Imperial voter 6 times or discard one of your own voters 6 times in order to complete the Tyranny card. These actions are taken by you and your fellow revolutionaries collectively. Take a legacy token for each action you complete on a Tyranny card. So, in the Buster intervention, every time you evict an Imperial voter, gain a legacy. Legacy you earn goes to your player mat and counts towards your resource cap. Resolve a Tyranny card by completing all the tasks on one side of a Tyranny card and taking the legacy from that side. Doing so will earn you an Azadi point. Each choice on a Tyranny card is tied to an ideologue. Completing a choice will unlock a new resistance card belonging to that ideologue and strengthen it permanently for the rest of the game. So make sure you choose wisely. Players do not have to pursue the same choice. That being said, the choice they complete first will determine the resistance card they unlock. The player who completes the Tyranny card, that is, resolves the last task on either side of the Tyranny card, unlocks a new zone and places a new resistance card on the map. They may place either a new 917 or 1121 zone adjacent to any two other zones. Resolving a Tyranny card unlocks a new resistance card, giving you access to a new ideological power. The methods you choose to resist the Imperials permanently alter the DNA of your nation and strengthen one ideologue for the rest of the game. The resistance card you earn is placed in any zone with an empty space by the player who completed the Tyranny card. Each resistance card belongs to one of the 4 ideologues. You must be a level 3 of that ideologue in order to use it. Many players may be eligible to use a resistance card during their turn. However, if you have a majority in a zone with a resistance card, only you may use that card, as long as you meet its ideological requirement. For example, this card can only be used by the level 3 capitalist. Here are some other things to keep in mind. You may be eligible to use more than one resistance card during your turn. If you have a coalition majority in a zone with the resistance card, then both the players may use that card, as long as they meet its ideological requirement. If an Imperial Order is placed on a resistance card, its power is blocked until that Imperial Order is overturned. The Imperial Order is a devastating new law enacted by the Imperials designed to stifle your revolution and keep your country shackled. Dissent against the Imperial Order to overturn it and earn an Azadi point. The player who entered the volatile area and triggered the Tyranny card must place an Imperial Order in a zone of their choice. They must place 6 infamy tokens in the space provided beside it. The Imperial Order only applies to the zone in which it is placed. For example, this Imperial Order, the death penalty, says that to place any rebel voters in this zone, you have to first discard your own voters. You and your fellow rebels can overturn Imperial Orders by committing acts of dissent against the Imperials. The cost to commit an act of dissent is denoted on the Imperial Order. When you have completed 6 acts of dissent against the Imperials, taking away 6 infamy from that zone, the Imperial Order is overturned and you immediately gain an Azadi point. For each act of dissent you commit against the Imperials, you gain an infamy, giving you access to dangerous new powers. Infamy you earn goes to your player mat and counts towards your resource cap. You can spend your hard-earned infamy to use one-time powers from the Maidaan. The Maidaan is the focal point of your revolution, where ideas are brought to life and people are mobilized for action. You can use the powers in the Maidaan to build majorities, resolve tyranny cards, and even combat other players. Powers purchased from the Maidaan card must be used immediately in that same turn. You can use the Maidaan as many times as you want in your turn, as long as you pay the cost for its powers. Refer to the Maidaan card to see what powers are available to you. You can invest your legacy to erect a monument to the nation's struggle using the monument tracker. The more contributions you have marked on the monument tracker, the greater your powers would be towards the end of the game. The legacy required to mark your contribution is written on the monument tracker. Once you have paid the legacy required for a particular spot, place one of your voter pegs party symbol side up on the monument tracker to mark your contribution. Spots on the monument tracker are limited, and they give you huge powers after Azadi. So make sure you grab your spot quickly. So, you've had a long and arduous journey. You've fought back against the Imperials, and you've gained Azadi. Congrats! But guess what? The game isn't over yet. Your nation now stands at a crossroads. The moment you gain Azadi, you and your fellow rebels will receive a foundation card to help you decide what sort of nation state you wish to build. At the moment of Azadi, tally the ideology cards in the game. See which is the dominant and second most dominant ideology card present in the game. Pick a foundation card corresponding to this ideological combination. For example, at the moment of Azadi during this game, there are a total of 6 Supremo cards, making it the most dominant ideologue in the game, and 5 Showstopper cards, making it the second most dominant ideologue. Pick the foundation card corresponding to these ideologies. Remember, the dominant ideologue symbol would be the bigger one on the foundation card. Each side of the foundation card represents 2 different types of nation states that the players may wish to build, each adding a new rule set to the final act of the game and benefiting one ideologue in particular. Players have to vote to decide which side of the foundation card they want. The number of votes each player has on a foundation card is determined by the number of contributions they have marked on the monument tracker. For example, in this game, the pink player has 4 votes. In turn order, players must vote for which side of the foundation card they want. Each foundation card also gives a new power to a specific ideologue. You have to be at least level 3 of that ideologue to access this power. Now, the foundation card remains active till the end of the game. Monuments are powerful symbols of your contribution to the nation's struggle and give you a new power to use the moment you gain Azadi. After you voted on the foundation card, a monument will be erected to celebrate your nation's struggle. The monument your nation earns will be denoted on the foundation card itself. The more contributions you have marked on the monument tracker, the stronger your power would be. For example, in this card, the number of zones you may convert a voter in depends on the number of contributions you have marked on the monument tracker. So here, player pink has marked 4 contributions, so they may convert a voter in 4 zones. But remember, timing is key. You may only use the monument power once in the game. Once you gain Azadi, the Imperials will relinquish control and withdraw their forces. But now, it's every player for themselves as you fight against your fellow rebels to see if you'll be elected as the leader of your new nation. To complete the transfer of power, refer to the transfer of power section within the rulebook.
Chances are that the game will end with you losing the revolution. But if you have managed successfully to throw off the Imperial powers, the game now ends when a majority is formed in each of the zones on the map. When the game ends and all majorities are formed, the player with the highest majority voters wins the game. Only voters used to form a majority count towards your endgame score. If you like SHASN and Azadi, rate us on Board Game Geek, tell your friends, and get more people to the revolution. You can grab your own copy at buyshasn.com. If you have any questions, reach out to us at this email ID or DM us on our Instagram handle. Thanks for watching.